Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, it's Jesse with Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things nerdy through a common sense lens. And we know that celebrities are idiots, right? For the most part. Yeah, obviously, there's a few shining examples out there that are the opposite. But for the most part, these people live in an echo chamber. They live in a bubble where their handlers or their agent feed them all their information. They don't actually ever get out among normal people. It's not like they're going and hanging out with bars at a place where like you or any of the rest of us would hang out. Like you're not going to bump into them at your local grocery store, right? So we know these people are very isolated. They live in their own little echo chambers. They live in their own little world. But for some reason out there, they feel because they feel elevated or entitled or because they've got so much money or because people are always asking them questions because they're Hollywood actors, and most of the time people are just asking them about movies and their television shows. But of course we know that that has long been since not the thing out there in Hollywood. They ask about the agenda all of the time. They want to know everybody's opinion on politics and everything else, so that way they know everybody's on their side. It's part of the ostracization. It's part of all of that kind of nonsense, keeping things within the cult outside there in Hollywood. Well, I don't know what it is. Normally I allow this stuff to pass. Normally I just completely and totally ignore it when one of another Hollywood actor is being an absolute idiot beyond all shadow of a doubt out there. But boys and girls, maybe it's because it's Halloween out here when I'm recording this video. Maybe it's because I feel a little spicy. Maybe it's because I'm wearing a clown suit. And it's such a good time to talk about all of the clowns out there in Hollywood because Han Solo, Star Wars legend, Harrison Ford, boys and girls, the actor who absolutely hated that character, but is nonetheless a legend far beyond Star Wars himself, has decided to open up his big dumb mouth and put his foot in it once again, showing his ignorance and absolutely everything else. And this time, boys and girls, it's climate change. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm old enough to remember growing up in the 90s when it was global warming. And then when they couldn't prove that, it turned into climate change. And I've been around long enough to do a little bit of research to remember back in the day, what was it, like the 70s? We were all going to freeze to death. These are the same experts, mind you, boys and girls, that Harrison Ford is listening to you, that told us back in the 60s that as soon as the planet hit 2 billion people, we'd all starve to death and it would be completely and totally unsustainable. Last I heard, our current population is sitting somewhere around 8.7 billion, boys and girls. So remind me again, the track record of these quote-unquote experts and how accurate these things are, that for some reason they can't actually give us any reliable science behind it. And of course, it's just as soon as it gets put under any kind of scrutiny at all, it all collapses and fails miserably, because this is how it goes. But once again, this just shows you the ignorance of the Hollywood elites and why they are nothing more than talking points and mouthpieces for the spirit of the age and whatever is currently trendy. And Star Wars legend Harrison Ford is just the latest example of that. And boys and girls, absolutely, you separate the art from the artist, because it will not taint my love for Han Solo in any way, shape, or form, because at the end of the day, I know the places and the kind of people that these folks are surrounded by. And honestly, what else would you expect of them? Because everybody in the room is telling them the exact same thing. But at the end of the day, Harrison Ford is still his own man and is responsible for the words that come out of his mouth. So guess what? We're going to roast him, laugh him, and ridicule him for exactly that. But before we do, we're going to prove that he's the clown, that he should be wearing the clown suit, not me. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 2,300. We're sailing our way towards 24 on our journey to 100,000. I think we're sitting at like 2,370, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Lady, what do you think about all this? Does it surprise you at all that Harrison Ford is having absolute TDS syndromes out there, having a meltdown over Trump and calling him the greatest criminal in the world just because of the fact that Trump is called the climate change hoax and scam exactly what it is, nothing more than a money power play? Or do you agree with Harrison Ford and the rest of the California elites out there that you believe this is the biggest threat to the world out there, that we're all going to starve and die to death just because that's what all the experts have always been saying forever and ever and ever, and Trump's just the big bad meanie out there who's going to ruin it all and murder the whole planet? Let us know anything relevant in the comment section down below, because unlike in Harrison Ford's bubble, all opinions are actually welcome in our comment section. And of course, if you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links in the description down below and become a member, like Jess Sis just became over there on YouTube. We certainly appreciate that. All right, boys and girls, from Zach Sharf over at Variety.com. Harrison Ford blasts Donald Trump over attacks on climate change. I don't know of a greater criminal in history, and it scares the shit out of me. He doesn't know of a greater criminal in history. Can we start off with Adolf? Okay, that's the obvious one that everybody knows about. But we could go to Stalin and the 10, 15, 20 million he took out, right? The 10, 15, 20 million he took out by starving them to death. How about Mao? How about Mao and the 30, 40 million that he took out? I have a book on my shelf in my living room. It's called The Big Black Book of Death. It lists all of the confirmed and attributed to deaths from Marxism and communism out there in the world. So Harrison Ford, tell me, what mass genocide has Donald J. Trump committed in his entire lifetime that equates to any of the three figures that we have talked about just now? And remind me again, who's the greatest criminal in history? But of course, once again, Harrison Ford, just like every other Hollywood idiot out there, lives in a bubble and only is fed the talking points he's allowed to speak. Harrison Ford delivered a blistering takedown of Donald Trump while speaking to The Guardian this week ahead of receiving a Conservation Leadership Award at Chicago's Field Museum. Oh, yay, a fake award for a fake activist. If you don't remember, and I'm just probably going to keep this article up forever, and I'm just going to keep referencing it, because this just shows you that all these Hollywood elites and the award that Harrison Ford just got is for nothing more than virtue signaling. Is Harrison Ford giving up his private jets? Is Harrison Ford going to stop flying around on himself? Is he only going to fly commercial from here on out? Or is he going to keep taking private jets, just like the private jet he took to win his climate change award? Media went all in on diversity. Now it's in full retreat. Why? Because it was nothing more than a virtue signal, just like this bullshit is. The Star Wars and Indiana Jones icon ripped the president for his ignorance towards climate change and his dismantling of the government's climate policies. Ignorance, huh? Funny choice of word usage. Variety. Ironic. Some would say poetic. Me personally, I just think God's got a really funny sense of humor. I'm trying to be better. Bible study Sundays at 2 p.m., boys and girls. I'm trying to be better about not cussing in these videos. I really am. I promise. Lord, forgive me. Trump doesn't have any policies. He has whims. What was it, the one that won him the election in 2016? Illegal immigration. Remember the border wall? All of that kind of stuff. You know, all those things that he accomplished to a certain degree, a lot in his first term, and then has now, like, as a guy who lives 2 hours from the border, campaign promise mostly fulfilled on that one. So how about that's a policy for you? How about lower taxes on families, working income? Oh, that promise he made about no taxes on tips? Yeah, that happened, given it's only up to 20 or 40 grand, but still, as a guy who mostly lives on tips, as a working poor content creator, I like that. So what policies are those again? It scares the shit out of me. The ignorance. The irony. The hubris. Oh, the ego. The lies. What was it Reagan said? It's not that our Democratic friends are stupid. It's just that they believe so many things that aren't true. The perfidy. Good word usage. I don't even know what that one means. I'd have to look it up. So shout out to him for that. I'd hope a guy that literally speaks, well, I guess I speak for a living too, actually, now that I think about it. But he speaks other people's, well, should I speak other people's words for a living now too? Either way, good job, Harrison Ford. I'll give you points for that one. I don't know what that word means. If you do, let me know in the comment section down below. Trump knows better, but he's an instrument of the status quo. If he was an instrument of the status quo, why does Hollywood hate him? Because you guys like try to determine what the status quo is. But okay. And he's making money hand over fist. Once again, the irony of calling anyone else ignorant from Harrison Ford or Variety. Because if anybody that's actually checked knows that during his first term, the man lost money. His net wealth decreased. Because guess what? He wasn't there to run his businesses. And he had to sell off and divest a lot of things in order to even be able to be president. So once again, this is why you don't take your politics or your morality from Hollywood elites. Off the top of my head, I can destroy almost every single thing he said here. Don't believe me? Fact check me. Please do. Because Harrison Ford clearly isn't being fact checked by anyone. Well, the world goes to hell in a handbasket. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was you, Harrison Ford, and the rest of Hollywood that decided to bring the strongest economy this country had seen in decades to a grinding halt, all because you old fogies were scared of the sniffles. And then we had 4 years of your buddy Biden that we've been dealing with ever since. And Trump's 10 months into his second term? Technically 9, since he doesn't get inaugurated until the end of January. So he's 9 months. Just barely enough time to even start finishing off a baby. And the world, and you're blaming Trump for the fact that the world's held in a handbasket. I mean, we got peace in the Middle East to the most part. The console wars are over. I know the price of eggs has gone down. The price of gas has gone way down. So, I mean, given there's still some rough spots, things are still bad, but we've dealt with essentially the last 6 years of hell as far as our economy is concerned. And people like you jumped right all in that, Harry. Can I call you Harry? I don't care. What's up, Harry Ford? Wow, that sounds bad. That's horrible, Harry Ford. God, no wonder you don't let anybody call you Harry. Hand over fist while the world goes to hell in a handbasket. It's unbelievable. I don't know of a greater criminal in history. Hitler, Mao, Stalin, Lenin, Marx, you could argue Castro. What was that, Che Guevara that all you idiots like to wear on your t-shirts? You know, the guy that enjoyed killing homosexuals, the guy that also, by the way, please leave comments down below on this video because all of these things that I'm talking about, the YouTube algorithm is not going to like them. He did that. He actually literally took the wall out of his office in his little command center out there. So when he wasn't down there to personally execute people, he could watch it happen while he was working on paperwork. Yeah. But Harrison Ford doesn't know of a greater criminal in history, boys and girls. Harrison Ford can't think of one. Can you guys think of one? Can you think of a worse monster than Cheeto Dust President Trump? Can you think? I mean, I can't. It's so wild. I mean, it's not like there was some mysterious donor that just happened to donate like $1 billion, like $500 million to the United States government to make sure our soldiers could get paid while the government shutdown happens, right? Not like that's going to happen. You know, it's hilarious. Like they say things. How'd that old saying go in Princess Bride? You keep on saying that word, but I don't think it means what you think it means, right? Because this is what it all comes down to. These people are so ignorant of the reality of the world out there. They live in a bubble. They live in an echo chamber. And yet they claim we're the ignorant ones. We're the racists. We're the homophobes. We're this, that, and the other. We are everything wrong with society. While they fly in their private jets to get awarded a climate change award. Yeah, he probably burned more fossil fuel getting to this award ceremony than the majority of us will all year. So yeah, who's the real criminal, Harry? Who's the real criminal, Harry Ford? Just last month, Trump told the United Nations that climate change is the greatest con job ever perpetuated on the world. Yeah, because they literally turned it into a stock market for carbon shares so they all could make money off of it. Right? Don't believe me? Look it up. Look it up. Look at how the carbon sharing was working. Their carbon credits. It turned into a giant stock market scheme, is what it did. It was all about making money. Because it's not like the companies were actually trying to reduce their carbon footprint. Because if you really cared about any of this, you'd start hammering China and India. They are the two biggest polluters on the planet, bar none. We don't even put a tenth of what either one of them do into the atmosphere. China's building a new coal-powered power plant, coal-powered power plant, say that 5 times fast, every 6 months or faster in some cases. Oh, but Donald Trump, he's the biggest criminal in history. Trump said, if you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail. Spain. Look what happened to Spain. Look at their economy. They went doubled down on all the green new jobs. How'd that work out for them? As a guy who used to unload your windmill turbines off of ships at the port, we spent more diesel pulling one blade, putting more CO2 into the atmosphere, pulling one blade off of that ship than that giant will end up in nothing more than a landfill because you can't recycle them. Entire field of props would counteract. It was laughable. I giggled while I was making overtime, running around on forklifts, blasting thick clouds of diesel smoke all into the air while I'm pulling off your green climate change windmill blades. Tell me again where the lie is and that it's not a scam. You need strong borders and traditional energy sources if you are going to be great again. Facts. Nuclear, anyone? The actual only clean and completely and totally reliable resource out there? Oh, nobody wants to talk about that, though, because that would solve the problem. And they don't want to solve the problem. They want to keep virtue signaling like Harrison Ford and all of the rest of the Hollywood, so that way Orange Man can be bad and they can keep the world divided. Imagine what would happen if we had cheap, next to free energy, if there was nuclear power plants all over the country, all over the planet. We'd stop fighting over energy. Conflict would stop in a lot of places. It would be, it's an easy fix. We have the technology and it's safer now than it has ever been before. What happened in Japan, what happened in Russia can't happen with today's technology. But they don't want to talk about that because it's never been about solving the problem. It's about been division and destruction. And Harrison Ford, Han Solo himself, is nothing more than a talking point for that spirit of the age. As recounted by The Guardian, Trump has said about dismantling climate and clean air protections, halted clean energy projects, urged oil and gas companies to drill, baby, drill. And trust me, President Trump, all of us are thanking you at the pump for that. Especially as a guy with 6 kids that drives a big old E350 van. For the fossil fuels that are overheating the planet. These are the same people that told us fossil fuels were going to cause the planet to freeze. Back in the 70s, don't believe me? Go find the Time magazine cover where the earth looks like a giant global ice bucket, ice cube. It's a big round bowl of ice. Okay? And guess what it said? The world climate change. The world's going to freeze because of our carbon emissions. We got an next big ice age coming. Yeah. Same people that told us the entire world would collapse under a 2 billion people population. Almost to 9 billion now. Almost 8 billion, almost to 9 billion now. I knew it was coming. I've been preaching this stuff for 30 years, Ford said about climate change and the increase in climate-related disasters. Prove it. South Texas and Florida just had one of the quietest hurricane seasons we've seen in years. Disasters aren't getting worse every year. It's cyclical, almost like it's just the weather. Everything we said about climate change has come true. Name one thing. Name one thing. One. Rising sea levels? Nope. I know the Obamas just bought an island. Just bought a house on an island. Harrison Ford How many beachfront properties do you own? Right? How many houses on an island do you own, Harrison Ford? Why is it not sufficient that alarms people that they change behaviors because of the entrenched status quo? Like all of your private jets. He's losing ground because everything he says is a lie. Aren't his numbers? I mean, I don't keep up with politics all that hardcore anymore, but aren't his numbers like better than ever? Right? And even if they're not, this is his last term. I'm confident we can mitigate against climate change. Oh, sure you can. Then we can buy time to change behaviors. Not according to Greta Thunberg. To create new technologies, to concentrate more fully on implementation of those policies. But we have to develop the political will and intellectual sophistication. Irony from the ignorance of Hollywood. The political will of the human beings are incapable of change. We're incredibly adaptive. We are incredibly inventive. If we concentrate on a problem, we can fix it most times. Yes, we already have. It's called nuclear energy. And that will fix all of these problems. But as anybody that's ever worked in a lot of nonprofits out there will tell you, it's not about solving the problem. It never has been. Just like Harrison Ford doesn't actually believe in any of this. It's just a virtue signal. You don't see Harrison Ford selling off all of his big mansions. You don't see him giving up his private planes. You don't see him giving up his private jets to fly commercial with the rest of us serfs out there. No, you don't. Because they know it's all a lie. They know it's all a scam. And we know that because if they did actually believe any of this, if they did actually think any of this was true, one of two things are true. Either they are so elite and so privileged that they believe only you, the serfs, the common nerds, should have to change your lifestyle. That you should have to suffer to protect the planet, but not them. Not them. They're the educated. They're the elites. They're your betters, boys and girls. So either that's true, and they're nothing more than the aristocracy that said, let them eat cake, or they know they're lying, and none of it's true, and it's all bullshit. Either way, one of those two things has to be true. One of those two things, beyond a shadow of a doubt, has to be true. Because otherwise, the reality that you see in the lifestyles they lived wouldn't be the ones that they'd be living. So which is it? Are they liars? Or do they think they're better than you and that you have to suffer, but not them? Which one is it? Either way, it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, this just proves once again why Hollywood elites are nothing more than a bunch of dumbasses, adult pretenders that should not be listened to. Ask them about their movies. Stop asking about their political opinions. But of course, we know it's not about that with Hollywood and their media anymore. It's all become political, and that's why they've failed. That's why they've lost. Harrison Ford is being nothing more than a talking point for the spirit of the age. That spirit of the age has destroyed Marvel, Disney, Star Wars, and every other favorite beloved IP practically on the planet and have brought them to their knees and caused them billions of dollars, arguably trillions of dollars in losses. So remind me again, who's the ignorant one, Harrison Ford? Who's the ignorant one? Variety. Because Harry Ford, you've danced with the devil in the pale moonlight, and your ignorance is clearly showing. So which are you? A liar or an elitist who thinks the rest of us should serve you and your agenda? Because only one of two things can be true. And guess what? Either one are exactly why nobody should listen to the idiots in Hollywood. A big shout out to all of our subscribers and members out there. Thanks for watching, and make sure you guys like and subscribe if you have not already.